This border crisis narrative is incredibly annoying from the media, by the way. They are absolutely feeding into this, and they're going to cause the Democrats to behave in a totally, even in a more reactionary way than they were already going to behave. It is so incredibly manufactured. There's always been a crisis at the border. When there are humanitarian problems occurring at the border as a consequence of the conditions there, 120 degrees they have to traverse in the desert, all that sort of stuff. And then also the American government adding on to the cruelty with the way that they choose to deal with people that are crossing the border, that are seeking asylum. There is an extra crisis on the border. There's always a crisis on the border. It's never stopped. The problem is the way media covers it. You can either cover it like you do under the Trump administration, which is somewhat honestly, from a moral grandstand point of view, like an actual honest point of view, by saying this is really messed up, this is really horrible, the way that we are treating these people is absolutely ridiculous. Or you can treat it in a way where you look at the border and you say, there's a gigantic crisis happening in the border currently, and it's really bad because so many people are coming in. So many people are coming in. What are we going to do? Depending on who is in charge, we either deal with it from the point of view of reactionary garbage, claiming that this is a huge issue, not taking an actual stance on it, but just simply channeling the right-wing agitations as they have done. Just covering it as, many Americans are concerned that the border is turning into a pylon with hundreds of thousands of migrants coming in through the floodgates. Like, that's no different than what Fox News says. No different than what Fox News says. When MSNBC is saying it, or whenever, the Associated Press is covering it in that way, they're doing a disservice. If they truly have a left-wing point of view in the way that, like, so many imply, then they have to recognize that simply offering contentious coverage on a particular matter does not mean that you're doing honest coverage on the issue. So, House GOP leaders head to the southern border as Democrats ready immigration bills. So Democrats are putting forward some immigration bills right now, and the hilarity here is what Kevin McCarthy, California Republican and House Minority Leader, is decided he's going to do a news conference about the U.S.-Mexico border policy outside the Capitol on Thursday, or did one, and has decided to do a field trip to the border. Remember, these guys are the same guys that laughed at AOC when she went to the border camps and cried, right? So now they're going to do the exact same thing, but from the Republican side. Now they themselves are going to go and be like, oh my God, a brown person walked through an imaginary border that we had set here. Obviously, this means every American is going to be raped. All white Americans are about to be raped and murdered. We need to literally start shooting people. So that's where we're at right now with the border crisis. And the media is absolutely allowing Republicans to get away with it. This crisis of the border is spiraling out of control, McCarthy told reporters last week, and it's entirely caused by the actions of this administration. Sent a letter to Biden in early March requesting a meeting to discuss the increasing numbers of migrants at the border and work together to solve it. Like what? What are we going to do? What are the Democrats going to do? Work together with Kevin McCarthy? Like what? How are they going to work together? They're already, overflow facilities and all this other cruel shit that Democratic administrations rarely ever scale back. Wait, what's going on at the border? Absolutely nothing that is different, okay? That's the whole point that I'm trying to make here. Nothing different is happening at the border that hasn't happened in perpetuity in the United States of America. The only difference is an administration is different now, and they're going to do still the senseless cruelty on the immigrants that are trying to find a better life for themselves. But this time the media is going to act as the cudgel, or act as they are contentious and pretty much push the administration that was already willing to do reactionary garbage to begin with to immigrants, because nobody gives a shit about them. They're going to use the public opinion on immigration as a reason as to why they have to have these detention centers and why they have to do these dragnet ICE raids and shit like that. That's it. Recently, Vice was on the ground at the border. The reality of reversing the Biden-Trump policy. Okay, I'll watch this. So ultimately, the biggest change here with Biden's administration versus Donald Trump so far has been processing asylum seekers and allowing them to come into the country again. Right? The Trump administration was like, nope, it's done. It's over. Because of COVID, we're totally ending it. And even before that, they were like, if you come here, we're going to murder you. Okay? We're going to lock you in fucking jail for an extended period of time. You're going to have to do slave labor. Sorry, sucks to suck. And we're going to separate you from your children. We're going to do senseless cruelty to you if you try to come into this country. So the big change there is the Biden administration has said, we are processing asylum seekers. So there's still so much more going on that there's still so much that needs to be reformed on the back end. But even a little bit of that, even a little bit of reform has immediately gotten Republicans to act like, the country is falling apart and they're literally burning it to the ground. And now we're going to be waving Guatemalan flags everywhere instead of the American flag, yada, yada.
Cornelia with active.
You look at these cartel members, brother. You don't understand. Cartel members have changed they've changed the way they look, brother. You think, oh, I'm sorry. You think I'm a sexist? You're willing to tell me that you don't think that these are girl boss cartel members right here, brother? Yeah, I fucking know. I know that these cartels are woke. They're SJW cartels. That's why they got women. They're trying to come in here and do queer Marxism. Republicans be like, they got shoes. Why are they coming in? It seems like they're pretty privileged to me. Looking real privileged to me. This one's got an iPhone. Dude, this video covers very little on beyond what's going on with what people are doing. Kevin McCarthy, minority leader in the House, is literally doing what AOC did, but on the other side, creating a situation that is like trying to increase the panic around migrants. This is all that the Fox News has been talking about, making it seem like there is a gigantic problem at the border, whereas that gigantic problem always existed. The media stopped covering it under Donald Trump after they were done with like migrant detention centers for children because they covered it too much. So now they're like, or they think they covered it too much. They covered it into the ground. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the Iraq-Afghanistan wars where they just stopped. They didn't want to show veterans in coffins, so they didn't want to show like the actual bloodbath that was going on, so they stopped covering it. You know, after a while they were like, this is just the reality now. It's going to happen. This cruelty is going to happen. We're just not going to talk about it. Puerto Rico is another example. Oftentimes it's just when brown people are victims, the media just moves away. They talk about it for a little bit. They make it seem like it's the worst thing that's ever happened, and usually it is. And then they move away from it. This week, the House will begin consideration of 2 bills aimed at amending the immigration system. The first is the American Dream and Promise Act that would establish a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants brought to the country as children, otherwise known as dreamers. It would also include a pathway to citizenship for people granted temporary protected status, along with those who were recipients of the deferred enforcement departure as of January 20th. 2021. There is also a Farm Workforce Modernization Act, which would create a system in which a worker in the agricultural industry could earn temporary status and eventual option to become a permanent resident. Neither of these bills are going to pass. I'm telling you right now, they're deeply popular bills. Americans want this. There is like, depending on what part of the bill we're talking about, there is either 75 on the minimum to 90% support for this, 90% being for the DACA immigrants and the pathway to citizenship for DACA immigrants, 75% for amnesty overall, or conditional amnesty overall for Americans. But it's also the bread and butter of the Republicans. And also, they believe that this is a way to create more Democratic voters. So they're going to oppose this as best as they can. And also, it goes along with their white nativist, white supremacist policy positions. So 0% shot that this gets pushed through the Senate. It's just not going to happen. Both bills have strong support from Democrats and passed the lower chamber in 2019. It's unclear how they would fare in the Senate because they would need Republican support. The bills represent a more targeted approach at passing immigration legislation than Biden's comprehensive immigration proposal, the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021, which would face significant opposition by Republicans in the Senate. If you ask me, what they should do, what Democrats should do is precisely what they have done, or precisely what Republicans do, which is go off balls to the wall with an aggressive policy agenda. Say, we're going to do full unconditional amnesty and then work your way down. But they're not going to do that. And they're going to cuck themselves already. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I am legitimately fearful that the Democrats are going to completely give up on covering immigrants. We'll see.
The Biden administration now facing criticism over a very different emergency, with help deployed along the southern border. FEMA sent to organize suitable shelter after a surge of migrants at the border. 3,200 children crossing alone last week. Republicans charge this is a crisis brought on by a more migrant-friendly immigration policy under President Biden.
People think they can get in. They begin sending their unaccompanied child on a train ride across Mexico. This policy is leading to this surge. That is unmistakable.
The White House acknowledged.
First of all, completely incorrect. Secondly, it doesn't even fucking matter. Let's say if it is correct. Let's say that people are so goddamn scared. It's a backlog. That's the reason why it seems like a surge is occurring, because no migrants were being allowed into the country, right? But let's say that they are literally sending their children here. Okay, What's the alternative? Killing them? Like, what are you, fucking crazy? Take care of the goddamn kids, you dumbass. What the fuck is your problem? Like, we're the wealthiest nation on earth. Like, this is something that I will never understand. It's something that it just does not fit my brain. This notion that like, oh, well, people are literally sending their children here because it's a better future for them here, despite the kind of senseless cruelty that we subject them to in a way to deter others from coming into the country. Despite all that, they still believe that there's a better shot for them here. But we just got to deal with it. We got to fucking lock them up and like, you know, harm them and shit.
There are now too many children at Border Patrol stations.
We inherited a real lack of capacity. It's hard to ramp up that capacity. You can't just take children and put them in a hotel room. They need to be in a place where they are safely protected. They need to be in a place with staff.
Hotels are notoriously not staffed.
House Republican Kevin McCarthy.
Which is why we need to put them in prison. We literally have to put these kids in prison because we can't put them in a hotel because, you know, think about it. They're gonna see stuff on the television. They're gonna order too much room service. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that kids could do. Guys, there isn't like literally a fuckload of hotels that are empty that would benefit tremendously from restructuring and being repurposed into facilities that house like migrants that come into the country, or even homeless shelters, by the way, on top of that, with actual staff members getting appropriate training that they could use in the future to deal with migrant children, things like that. That would all be genuinely terrible. Like, that would be the worst thing you could do, okay? Home Alone 2 was a cautionary tale about migrant children.
But stop short.
Yeah, they're going to see titties on HBO. First of all, yeah, what if the kids purchase HBO packages, okay? And what if the HBO package also shows booba? In which case the child is over. I mean, he's traumatized. They saw booba. I'm just saying, boys, what is not traumatizing for these children is putting them in fucking prisons, okay? And also, they're not prisons, but they're overflow facilities. And also, that's not traumatizing for them. But the hotels would be too much.